So you're going to select your own threads for SpringGarden, and I want to share some tips about choosing them to create a sense of depth and perspective. In general, the threads in the foreground are going to be darker and become lighter as you go into the background. Also, in the foreground, the threads will have more texture and less texture as you move into the background. Color is really dominant, and you have difficulty seeing value, how light or dark a thread really is. But it's the contrast of value that gives interest, dimension, and balance to your work. So let's take a look at this piece in black and white. So looking at this piece in black and white, you'll notice that the bottom of this short hedge, the base of the tree and the tree trunk, and the horizontal hedge are dark. Most of the rest of the piece is light, but there's some medium value in this field, left flower bed, and here in the grass at the bottom. You can change the colors on this piece and have them be different from the ones I chose. But you need to retain the same value contrast to keep the balance of the original piece for a good result. If you have just one value in your piece, it just won't be as interesting. So beware. Don't choose bold colors for all of those flowers in the flower beds. Now let's take a look at the threads. Here are the threads in the piece as I chose them. At the top, you see them in color, and below you see these same threads in black and white. Notice that the light threads tend to have white mixed with them, and that's called a tint, whereas the darkest threads appear to have black mixed with them, and that's called a shade. How can you see value in threads? As I select them, I like to lay them out as I think they might be: light, medium, and dark. Sometimes I even arrange them in the way in which I'm going to be using them in my piece. Now, to see value, one way is to squint your eyes. Just close them almost as tight as you can, blocking out the color and trying to see if in fact you do have threads that are light, medium, and dark. In this piece, light is going to be dominant. Now, actually easier, I find, is to use some transparency sheets. I use a red one to block out the green color. That's called a ruby viewer. And I use a green sheet to block out the red colors. If I put them both together and hold them up to my eyes, I should block the color and more easily see these threads in black and white. Now, you can also use a value card to place your thread next to the value to see if it's light or dark, but frankly, I find that a little bit harder to use. The thread list in Appendix C gives you the threads used in the stitched models, along with the mounts used. So, in the first column is the thread of the stitched model. Next to it in red is a DMC number in case you wish to use those threads. The next column is going to show us where in the instructions that thread is used. Here's the amount for 18 count canvas, Congress cloth, and linen. Now notice that this column has a 0. That just means that that particular thread wasn't used on that fabric. Now, if you're selecting your own threads, you might wish to write the thread that you've selected in the column here on the right. And then you can write that same thread into the table in the instruction booklet along with where the thread is being used.